Tired of the negativity? Looking for a shot of optimism? Well, I have an inspiring story to make you smile right after this. This episode of Misfits and Crackpots is brought to you by the Well-Crafted Story Workshop. Struggling to connect with your audience and attract new clients? Transform your speaking skills at the Well-Crafted Story Workshop with Coach Jimmy Hayes Nelson and yours truly, Dr. Danny Brissell. In just 2 days, master the art of crafting compelling speeches that convert listeners into clients. Whether in-person or virtual, you'll get personalized attention in an intimate group, learning not just from expert coaches, but from fellow entrepreneurs. Don't let another opportunity slip away. Get your free story blueprint today at wellcraftedstoryworkshop.com and turn your story into your most powerful business tool. Your success starts here. Visit wellcraftedstoryworkshop.com now. You're just a well-crafted story away from 7 figures. Hello there, my friend, and welcome to Misfits and Crackpots. Short, inspiring stories for busy people. I'm Dr. Danny Brissell. This is a podcast for those interested in extraordinary stories about ordinary people and companies. Consider it your dose of positivity and inspiration for the week. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote, "Make no small plans, for they have no power to stir the soul." This week's success strategy: think big. Miss Hess was amazing. She was my second grade teacher. One day, as all of us second graders worked at our desk, Miss Hess interrupted us. She held up a pen in the air with her right hand and excitedly said, "Raise your hand if you can see this pen I'm holding." All of us raised our hands and she said, "Good." Then she asked us to follow her to the hallway, which we all did with pleasure, eagerly escaping from our seats. "Raise your hand if you can see that exit sign at the end of the hallway," she said. All of us giggled and enthusiastically raised our hands and she said, "Good, now follow me." We followed her outside onto the playground. She pointed to the neighborhood across the street. "Raise your hand if you can see that blue house across the street," she said. With growing excitement and enthusiasm, all of us raised our hands and she said, "Good." Then she bit her lip as if preparing us for something extremely challenging. "Now, this is a tricky one," she said. "Raise your hand if you can see the water tower 5 blocks away." All of us raised our hands shouting, "I can!" And she said, "Good." Then she looked at us and asked, "So let me ask you a question." She paused and began to speak very slowly and deliberately, watching all of us. "How far can you see?" "I can see a mile," one girl shouted. "I can see 2 miles," I added. "I can see 5 miles," another boy interjected. We were all fired up at this point. Miss Hess looked around at all of us and asked if any of us could see any further. All of us smiled and shook our heads. "Good," she said. That's when she asked us all to look up above. All of us stared up at the sky and she said, "Raise your hand if you can see the sun." All of our arms shot into the air and some of us were even jumping with joy. She said, "Good." At this point, she looked into our eyes, one by one, and slowly announced, "Did you know that the sun is 92.9 million miles away? And the furthest any of you thought you could see was 5 miles. She paused, again looking very deliberately at each of us. She slowly challenged us. You each are grossly underestimating your abilities. There are a few things in life that a person can control. No one can control the weather. No one knows how or when they may die. The condition of the economy is reliably unpredictable. It is impossible to control what family one is born into or the circumstances. And other people are the worst. As much as most want to, it is not possible to control others' thoughts, beliefs, feelings, or actions. What a person can control, however, are their own thoughts and beliefs. Above all, anyone has the power to control their attitude and effort. What they dream and conceive are totally within their power. And the secret sauce that successful people apply is putting in the work to make their dreams come true. While Ruth Moscow is not a household name, she managed to think big and forever change the fabric of society. The youngest of 10 children to Polish immigrants, Ruth lived with her older sister Sarah throughout most of her childhood, as her mother had become ill. It was working at her older sister's drugstore and soda fountain that captivated Ruth's interest in business and filled her head with grandiose ideas. While it may seem odd that a young woman at the time favored labor over leisure, Ruth grew up in a family where women contributing to the household income was standard. After all, in Poland, pervasive anti-Semitism contributed to economic hardships that compelled everyone to contribute to the family's income. So, it should not come as a surprise that Ruth's inclination towards entrepreneurship was in part a result of those challenging circumstances. Meeting Izzy in high school changed Ruth's life. Izzy was a poor art student named Elliot Handler. The two fell in love, married, and moved to Los Angeles, where Ruth had secured a job at Paramount Studios. Elliot, meanwhile, enrolled in the Art Center College of Design while working as a lighting fixture designer. Tinkering in his workshop, Elliot discovered a passion for shaping two new plastics, lucite and plexiglass, into sleek, futuristic furniture and accessories. His creations, catching the eye of his ever-supportive wife, sparked an idea. Ruth, a born hustler with an eye for potential, encouraged her husband to produce the pieces, and she would do the selling. She also negotiated a very large order with Douglas Aircraft, die-cast models of the Douglas DC-3 airplane to be given to corporate customers for Christmas. The newlyweds had discovered not just a prosperous side hustle, but a business waiting to be built. Together, along with industrial designer Harold Matson, they transformed Elliot's hobby into a thriving venture. Moving from picture frames to ukuleles, the company began to focus exclusively on the toy market. Over the next decade, they produced anything from toy guns based on popular television shows to toy pianos to music boxes. But it was a family trip to Switzerland that would forever seal the company's fate. Captivated by a storefront exhibit, Ruth and her daughter were entranced by 6 11-inch dolls donning various ski outfits. In stark contrast to the dominant baby dolls of the era, these dolls, staring back at Ruth, were a revolution in miniature. Their adult physique and range of outfits were strikingly reminiscent of an idea she had conceived 5 years prior, but discouraged to pursue by male executives. In these tiny figures, Ruth saw not just dolls, but a canvas for girls' dreams, a world where they could be anything they imagined. Ruth pushed the idea for the next 3 years. Men felt that their wives would not want it and that it wouldn't be right for a child to have that, Ruth later reflected in an interview. They were wrong. Women instantly flipped for that doll. The dolls no sooner landed on the counter than they were snatched up by the women buying them for their daughters. As a matter of fact, when Ruth's company released their own version of the doll, it was a massive hit, selling nearly 350,000 units in its first year alone. Today, the company that Ruth co-founded is the largest toy manufacturer in the world. Its name is a combination of partner Harold Matson's last name and her husband Elliot's first name. They called it Mattel. It has manufacturing facilities in China, Thailand, Indonesia, and Mexico, and licensing agreements with major entertainment corporations such as Disney, World Wrestling Entertainment, and Sesame Street. Mattel is a household name because of such iconic brands as the American Girl dolls, Uno, and Hot Wheels, and Matchbox die-cast toy cars. Although Ruth Moscow Handler may not be a household name, The doll she created has become perhaps the most recognizable in the world, named after her daughter, Barbie. See, friend, inspiration is all around us. You just have to look for it. Thanks for listening. Join us next week for another inspiring story about misfits and crackpots. Misfits and Crackpots is a production of Success Media, produced by Terrence Wishner. Sound effects by Alessandro Lucati, courtesy of Pixabay. Thank you for tuning in. If you love today's story, there's so much more to explore in the book Misfits and Crackpots by yours truly, Dr. Danny Brissell. Grab your copy now on Amazon and dive deeper into the extraordinary lives of those who dared to change the world. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with fellow misfits who love inspiring stories. See you next time.